My name is Marissa Sage, and I am director of the University Art Museum here on the campus of New Mexico State University. I want to say that tonight we would not have the Retablo collection available to us without the generous donors who have donated to NMSU permanent art collection throughout the years. These include the donors Lorena Babby and Andrew Babby and the Babby family, Philip Caroline, Dr. Reginald Fisher, Dr. and Mrs. Ezra Nydrick, Mr. Andrew Sutherland, Fran Toland, Victor Clarence, and the McClure family and Ellen McClure. We also would not have this exhibition tonight that is inspiring this workshop without the recent donation of the Giffords family collection, which was done by Gloria Giffords, a renowned retablo specialist who has donated her collection to NMSU. Thank you, Gloria. We very much appreciate your recent donation.
Super. I'm Karen Conley. Yes, I graduated with a BFA in 2018, and I now work at the Doña Arts Council as the program manager, and I'm also a regional artist, and I've done some of these workshops, and I'm really excited to be here tonight and talk about retablos and creating them, and also to show you some Santos. So what we're going to do first is I'm going to show you samples and talk about those samples a little bit. And then we'll go ahead and we'll walk through the steps. There's 7 steps to making a simple retablo using cardboard. The last time we did them, we did use tin. I really enjoy creating artwork on cardboard. I actually have done some pretty big pieces of artwork using cardboard. I like the ridges and the effect that you get. It can be challenging as well. So I'm going to go ahead and show you some of the examples that I've made for the workshop. So I'm going to kind of start with some simple examples. So this is a very simple example that I made. And this is a lady who lost her cats. So we kind of have a theme, a cat thing going on this evening. It's one of my favorite things to put into to artwork, although I have dogs, not cats, but I still like cats. So you can see the typical design of an ex-voto, because this is an ex-voto, is you've got this story area, or sometimes you can call it a narrative, or your composition is in the very top part of the ex-voto. And the bottom is where we generally see text, although it can be on other parts of the retablo, or the ex-voto. But for tonight, we're gonna be putting our text in the bottom. And so this lady, her cat got lost and it returned to her. And so she's thanking the Holy Mother for her cat coming back to her. I think it says, "Thank you for returning my gato. Thank you for returning my happiness." So this is the blue-haired lady getting her cats back. And you can see she's got a picture up here on the wall of her cat. So you can put as much detail into your retablo as you want to, or iconography or symbols. So you should be starting to think about, getting an idea in your mind of what you might want to draw. And as mentioned earlier, it doesn't have to be religious. I have some that I'm going to show you that are non-religious. It can be a wish, a thank you, but a lot of times what you'll see in these, people thanking some kind of spiritual being for helping them through some kind of possibly a traumatic event or something that happened to them, or wishing for something. And this was on the back of this is a LaCroix. Okay, here we go. So I also have some typical examples of retablos, ex-votos that I pulled from the internet. Here's another cat image. This lady, some neighbors complained about her cats and called the police. The police came and said, "Oh, you're okay, you can keep your cats." I mean, this is a real example, contemporary. And she's thanking St. Joseph up there on the right side for them not taking her cats. So, you know, for anybody that has pets, you know, it's pretty traumatic to think that you might lose your pets. So I'll let you see that pretty close, and you can see the writing on the bottom. And here's another contemporary one. This lady was very happy, again, thanking St. Joseph, that she didn't get ratted out, that her clothing was not really Chanel and it came from the dollar store. So some of these can be humorous and some can be traumatic. I like to go on the internet and kind of find those more humorous ones of what people are out there, what they're thanking for. And then this is another St. Joseph one where this family is thankful that their dad came back from work. And I think he was a border patrol agent. And you can see, I mean, the artwork can be more sophisticated, or like this one is a little more undeveloped, but it's still, I mean, you can see the intent. And then I'll show you. Okay, so this is one I made. This is the sample I made. And you can see I wrote on the bottom. And there is some iconography in this example that I made. And for those of you that live in New Mexico or live locally, you can think of some of those symbols you might want to put in your piece. I mean, any yucca or cactus, you know, our local flora and fauna is something, you know, that we're really proud of, or that will resonate with people that live here. And those are certainly symbols. A Zia sun. I actually used one of our little stencils, the birds, in this one. So it's a little bit bigger, but you can still see the bird. And I used the round stencil for the moon. So I really love the night skies here. And it means a lot to me. I go out sometimes with a group of photographers and we do astrophotography. And I mean, there's nothing, one of the reasons why we moved back here was because, you know, of that night sky and how beautiful it is. So I know I had posted some astrophotography on Facebook a few years ago of the Oregons, which the Oregon mountains are in the background. And I actually had somebody ask me if it was fake because there were so many stars. So that's just a little side note there. But this I wrote on the bottom. The New Mexico night sky sets my heart free. I feel like I can touch the stars. I give thanks. So I'm just in general thankful, you know, that we have that beauty here and that we can enjoy that. Oh, see. And this was created with everything in your packet, which we're going to look at here in a few minutes. And this is an example that I made yesterday. It's kind of hard to see, I think, but we're going to also look at some retablos and Santos using collage. And so we'll talk about that. And this one is more closely related to labor. If you're able to see it, I've collaged on images of other artists' work that represent labor in this country. And I mean, when I say labor, I mean people that work with their hands, you know, and agriculture, which is really another thing that is, you know, resonates here, that, you know, this is an agricultural community. So I made sure that that was included in there so that people would see it and know that, you know, this retablo is really about the people that do, you know, backbreaking work and kind of, you know, they're the backbone of a lot of that sort of industry in our country. But I would have left this part with no collage because I'm going to talk about that. That's kind of a mistake. So it's hard to write on collage and Modge Podge with markers and paint pens. So 2 examples I'm going to show of Santos that I made, and this is a traditional image of a traditional Santos, which has some symbols on it, iconography, which in art school, you learn about that, and you take art history classes and the survey courses. We talk a lot about symbols and iconography. So a dove means peace. Flowers usually mean purity or God's love. And she has some pearls on that you might be able to see, and that also refers to purity. And sometimes the flowers can also mean sacrifice, which are all, themes that are running in some of these Santos, the ones that are more on the religious side. So what I did for the workshop is I created Santos about my grandparents. And the first one that I made was of my grandmother when she was young. And I went through art magazines and just started collecting images and tearing them up and collaging them on. And we'll talk about that later. But that's my grandmother when she was young. She's sort of, it's hard to imagine whenever you don't know them when they were that young. So I think she's kind of pretty. Well, she is pretty. And then this was my grandfather, but older. So, and we'll talk about that later. And this sort of, to me, relates to the St. Joseph and laborers, because he was really a hard worker. He worked in a brick plant and he was a hunter. And so I wanted to make something that sort of resonated with that or related to that. And so we'll talk about those in a little bit. So what we're gonna do now is I'm just going to talk through the steps of making a simple retablo on cardboard. As I said earlier, cardboard can be used to do a lot of things in art, and I really enjoy working with cardboard. So the first thing that you're gonna do is, if you have the packet, you're gonna look at your supplies and make sure that, you have this piece of cardboard, really, which is about the size of an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. It can be different sizes. Some of my samples were longer, but that's okay. But for tonight, we're gonna be using the cardboard in your packet, which is about the size of a piece of paper. If you didn't get a packet, I'm sure most of us have some cardboard. So many of us get Amazon packages now that you can cut that piece. You can cut a piece, or maybe you've already cut a piece. What you're going to do, if you want, is once you've cut your piece of cardboard and you've got it, and if you want to sand the edges for a more polished and smoother look, you can take your cardboard and this piece is pretty nice already. But if it has some, let's see here. See this? If it has the edge like this and you don't like it, and I'm gonna just sort of go over here because it can get messy. If you're gonna sand, you should do it outside or over a garbage can, because today I had to vacuum my office because I had bits and pieces all over the floor. But you're just gonna sand your edges until they're smooth, till you want them. I mean, I would cut off any pieces like this. So you can do that before or after. You can do it before you start working on it, or you can do it after you're totally done. Just make sure that it's really dry if you've used any paint or if you've used Modge Podge, Collage, or anything. So you just want to make sure that it's totally dry. So now that you've got your piece and you have it nice and squared and it's clean, if that's what you decide to do, you're going to think about your story. What do you want to be thankful for, or wish, or maybe, a wish, you're thankful for something. It can be anything like that you're grateful for. It could be a sports person that you really like. It could be somebody in your family, something that they did for you, just like the samples. What I recommend that you do is I would get a piece of paper about the same size, and I would sketch out your idea first. And the reason is because you want to make sure that you're going to be leaving this room down here at the bottom. And it's pretty easy. You're just going to take a straight edge or ruler and you're going to trace the lines down there. But I think it's a good idea to practice on a piece of paper first, what you really want to draw, what you want your story to be. And that way you can kind of draw and maybe ideas will come. And if you make any mistakes, you know, you can erase your piece of paper. I mean, I really think, and you can think about what symbols or iconography that you want to include. And so we've got our stencils here. I already pre-cut some of mine now. Like I said, this is really good, this circle. I used it on my sample. And I used the birds, but I also made my own little stencil of St. Joseph, because one of the things that can be tricky is scale on your cardboard. So usually what you see is that the saint, or, you know, it doesn't even have to be really be a saint. It could be a symbol like the Zia sun, often is kind of off to the side, kind of looking at the scene of what's going on. And you want it to be a little, in my case, this case, I wanted it to be smaller. So while I was getting ready, I actually sketched out, oh my goodness, where is it? Oh, I know where it is. I actually sketched out a sample on a piece of paper. So you can see it's another cat themed example here, going with the cat theme this evening. And I just, you know, I drew on my piece of paper. You know, I just kind of started sketching out this idea. And in this case, you can see our saint over here, and she's telling Grandma, who I'm calling Tutu in this case, to turn off the stove. And I mean, this is typical of some of the Retablos or Ex-votos, if you go online and look them up, kind of a thing that you would see. And then when I started, I drew the lines down here so that I would make sure that I was drawing that story up here, because sometimes I have a problem with that and getting the figures so that they're not down in the writing. So we'll put that aside. So then you can go ahead and sketch your image, your story, your narrative, or whatever on your cardboard. So the first thing you want to do is take your straight edge that you have in your packet. In my case, I have a handy ruler here. And so you're just going to start about 1/2 inch from the bottom and make your first line. Pretty easy. You know, you could just do 2 or you could do 3. So you're just going to do that. That's the first thing you need to do. And then that way you can start to draw your sketch. And in this case, I drew my grandfather fishing, because he really respected nature, and he spent a lot of time outdoors. He worked really hard. He worked in a brick plant, and he also owned a grocery store for a while, but he retired from the brick plant. But he really believed in enjoying being outside and outdoors and taking care of nature. He really respected it. And he taught us, his grandchildren and his own children, that same love for nature. So this is a picture of him fly fishing that I sketched out today. And I went ahead and I put St. Joseph up here, because St. Joseph is looking over him. And my wish in this example is that love of nature and respect for nature just keeps going on and on. So what you want to do after you sketch out your image, what I suggest doing is taking your markers and highlighting your drawing, because you need to highlight so it shows up on the cardboard. You're not going to use your pastels yet, because the pastels, if you do it in reverse, your markers get gummed up. So you want to outline your drawing. So you're going to take any of your markers, and I'm going to give my grandpa purple pants. And don't worry about the ridges, because you'll have to work with the ridges on the on the cardboard, but it's okay. And he has an orange fishing vest. And let's give him some. I mean, you probably have a lot more markers at home, but I'm just using what was in the package. Let's give him, and then I'm gonna highlight St. Joseph, and he has green on. And I'm not gonna do the whole thing because I do want to talk about the collages a little bit, but you'll get the idea. Okay, so you can see how it starts to show up on the cardboard. So I would outline as much as possible. And if you look at some of the examples, you can see where I've outlined, like in this case, I outlined her clothes, her hair, the mountains. One thing that I really like doing and that you should experiment with is, you know, mixing your pastels. So once you have your image highlighted with your markers, then you can take your really nice pastel kit, and some of you might have more pastels at home. I usually work in soft pastels, so I have a lot of those at home. So what you can do, which might be a little easy, is you could take the wrapping off of your pastel. I'm going to take the wrapping off. And I do this with soft pastels too. And I'm just going to break a little piece like this. And I'm going to start filling in my my image, my narrative. So I'm going to fill in the water. And don't worry, you know, if you get a little bit of the pastel, you know, places where you don't think it should go, it's all right. Because you can put some pastel over it. You should probably do the background first, and you can fill in the ridges. You can fill in your ridges by turning your pastel like this and kind of going up and down. You can also fill it in by taking a piece of paper towel, and you can smudge. You can also smudge your pastel, which I like to do that. Because the pastel will get on your fingers, but it's okay, it'll wash off. And then I might just do some of these trees. Might fill in Joseph's coat up here, St. Joseph. Sorry, some administrivia there going on. So what you want to do is you just want to start filling it in. You can see that I'm filling it in. I mean, and you can work on it a while and you can actually combine some of the pastels, which I like to do. So we're giving them a nice orange vest, you know, because people out in the woods and hunters and everything, they have to, you know, wear an orange fishing vest. I'm pretty sure my grandpa had quite a few. Oh, I forgot he had a hat. You don't have to outline everything. You even have a little peach color for flesh. I mean, and I'm not gonna, I mean, I would work on this a lot more and really blend some stuff and give it a lot of details, but you can see in the sample, all the details and everything. I mean, you can really work it. So this is really nice, this peach color. I really like it. And you can just get as creative as you want. So they really do mix the pastels. So you can mix some of these to make some other colors, or so you don't have to worry about it. So, and if you wanted, I mean, I'm just making an orange. So here I'll show you an example of mixing. I just put some orange on the sun. So it's kind of the golden hour time of the day. So you can mix those. I mean, and you can take your time and you can really make it as, you know, as polished as you want. But for time's sake, I'm gonna go ahead and jump right to the writing something. So in this case, we want you to use your markers to write on the bottom. So I'm just gonna write on here, thank you, St. Joseph, for looking over nature. And I am grateful for my grandfather's labor, or I'm grateful for my grandfather's love of nature. And I would even practice, what you're gonna write really on your sample or on your sketch. You know, because if you're gonna be writing with the black marker, you don't wanna make a mistake. So I would definitely practice your sketch. And so let me just give you some tips. I had some notes and stuff written down. You don't want to press too hard on the cardboard because your pencil will actually poke a hole in the cardboard. So really your sketch on your actual piece is a light touch. Okay, so you don't really, be careful. Some of us have a heavy hand. Sometimes I do as well. So, and so you should experiment with the pastels. They really do blend, and you can, because some of these, I mean, this is a fabulous green. So for example, you might want some of your trees, you know, put some highlighting and stuff. You know, maybe you want to do a night scene and a crescent moon. I really love crescent moons and Venus up in the sky here. It's one of my favorite times. I love sometimes in the morning, you wake up and see a crescent moon and Venus. She's right below. So that seems to be something that would look nice on one of these. So, right, so this is, you know, I would probably work on this another hour or so to get it to be the finished product like this one. So I want to talk about collage a little bit so that we can have time for questions. So I'm only going to talk about that for about 5 minutes. So, so one of the things that you can do that's really great, if you have a lot of art books or magazines, I had bought, actually somebody was selling like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years worth of art books. American Art Collector. You can, you know, think about a Santos and somebody that you want to pay, you know, that you would like to admire, somebody that you admire, somebody that means something to you. If you don't want to do the religious one, think about somebody in your family or somebody in entertainment or, in life that inspires you, teachers, maybe an older sibling, is doing something that, you would like to do as well. So we live in an area where a lot of us come from military families. So you could think about that. So I started going through these art magazines that I have. You could use National Geographic. You could look for things on the internet to create your Santos. Like I said earlier, with my grandmother, her name was Clarice, and we called her Mai, and her nickname was Tip. But I had this picture of her when she was graduating from high school. So, and I just really loved the way her eyes looked in it. And she was like really one of the most important people in my life, very influential. And most of my big decisions in life, I always consulted her. And she was a very kind person. And again, she also liked nature, like her husband, Frank, who we call Papa. So my and Papa, miss them a lot. But they were a really big influence in my life and the direction that I took. So I decided that I would do Santos about them. Of course, this is younger than, much younger than, I never knew her like this. But I went through the art books and I actually started collaging in layers. And this is on foam. So foam, if you get foam boxes that have all these square foam pieces, this is a really good project to use those. Really fantastic. And Modge Podge, I use matte Modge Podge to do it. And I let it dry. It dries pretty fast. And then I actually applied some acrylic paints and soft pastels. And both of this one has Fix-It-Up sprayed on it. So, this was a lot of fun. And this is not really done. And one thing that's nice when you use even, I do a lot of mixed media work as well. And when you Modge Podge stuff on, once it's really dry, you can actually sand all these edges and any loose pieces or whatever come off, or you can extend them over. So
my name is Courtney, and as Marissa mentioned, I'm a graduate student here at NMSU. This is my second Retablo exhibition, which I have been lucky enough to curate at the University Art Museum. So within the collection of the University Art Museum, we have around 2,000 retablos in our collection, and we're now able to, in this new, the Depistali Hall and in this new gallery space, we're now able to display them on a regular basis. So I just want to provide some kind of quick background for anyone who might be unfamiliar with retablos before I explain a little bit about the exhibition itself, and then I'm going to hand it over to Karen to lead the workshop. So a retablo is a Mexican painting of religious imagery. They were traditionally painted on iron coated with tin. And retablos were one of the most popular religious manifestations of devotion in the 19th century Mexico. And it really emphasized the importance of the Reformed Catholic Church in Mexican art and Mexican culture. So there are two types of retablos. The retablos santos, which primarily include imagery of saints and themes of veneration, including those of Christ, the Virgin Mary, the Holy Family, and then the ex-votos, which these were created to give thanks for a miracle or a favor received. And either one of these types of retablos could have been deposited at a shrine as a votive offering, or at a church, or a lot of times they were also kept at home. And their function was primarily to induce spiritual qualities of love, respect, faith, and sacrifice and humility. So in this exhibition, the show was curated to display the patron saints of a variety of fields of labor. So Joseph and the Laborers will be up throughout the summer as well. And so many of the themes of unseen labor will also be explored in the two other shows that will be opening up this summer, both Sorry for the Mess and Pasos Ajenos. So within this exhibition, we kind of really showcase Saint Joseph as well as a variety of other saints who are also key patrons of laborers in the Mexican Catholic faith. We are so lucky to also be displaying for the first time a Mexican bulto, or a statue, as well as other retablo paintings from that recent donation by Gloria Giffords. So because of COVID, we've kind of had to adjust the exhibition slightly, and we really wanted to create a way to be able to engage with visitors. And so by focusing on some of these like iconography elements that are within a lot of the retablos. So for any of you who aren't familiar, iconography is the use of visual images and symbols in a work of art, and the study and interpretation of these images. So retablos are full of iconography, but I chose a few key ones so that visitors are able to learn a little bit more about what they represent and then seek them out within the exhibition and the retablos.